Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to the Knit Girls. It is episode 204. It is May the 12th, 2014. I'm Leslie, also known as You Don't Call Me Les.
I'm Laura, also known as Lala.
And we're a day late. Laura was traveling until about 30 minutes ago, so.
Yep. Just realized I left stuff in the hotel room and had to call the hotel. And it was all my autograph books for me. So, it's all good.
What's that?
So,
There's Oofsa, or there's some TV movie or something where they calm down. Oh, Anger Management with Jack Nicholson.
that's what I need all the time.
Anyway, works in progress. Why don't you go?
10, I'm counting. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16,
19,
17,
37,
18.
28.
Okay, so I have 18. Leaves on my little lefty shawl. It's getting a little bit bigger. It did not get a lot of love this week. In the car on the way down, I knit on it some, but it was pouring, so I didn't knit on it a whole lot. I got 2 leaves done, and then once I got to New Orleans, nothing got worked on for the most part. And then today on the way back, I just kind of sat like a bump on a log. So
You're allowed.
it's allowed. The New Orleans coming back party. Anyway, so this is Lefty by Martina Bem. I am really enjoying working on it. The little leaves are done by short rows and they are super cute. The rest is just plain garter, but the short rows kind of break it up and allow, something to happen.
Yeah.
So I'm always like, okay, one more leaf. It is being knit on size 3 signature needles. Those are 3.25 millimeters. It is a kit that I got from Miss Babs in 2013 at SSK. Mama Linneman picked it up. Or picked it out. I picked it up. And it was, the colorways were this main gray, which now I forget the name of, and Zombie Prom.
Storm something.
Maybe just Storm. It was just one word, I think. I didn't put it in the show notes last week. I apologize. So it's a kit from Miss Babs. Most people are getting around 26 leaves out of it. Each leaf is taking me an hour and a half at this point.
And that includes the garter rows between.
Yeah, that's the 10 rows of garter and then the 2 rows with additional short rowing. So that's going swimmingly. I don't know what else to say about it. And I finished the actual socks out of Lollipop yarn. I just need to cut and put in heels.
Cool.
So those are done. I actually worked on those while I heard Jeff Kinney speak. So that was pretty cool. So those are done. That's about it. That's all I got.
And so you don't have a ton of knitting because when did you leave? Friday?
I left Friday morning for New Orleans.
And this was not a leisure trip.
No, this was a work trip. In fact, I feel really bad. I had to cancel on podcast viewers who wanted to meet up because my boss pretty much planned out, well, if we were going to do a week. So on Tuesday, I found out I got a new boss. No, Monday night, I found out I got a new boss for next year, a new principal, which I'm super excited about. He's going to be fabulous. My old boss is going to take, she's going to be over accreditation for the entire county. So I'm super happy for her. It means that she's going to be working closer to home. She gets to spend more time with her little one, which is fabulous for her. I'm not going to lie, I was stressed about who they were going to name for the new boss. Found out Monday night. He's awesome. He's making the choice to go from a school that has a very low student population of like 700 back to us, which is really, like, he was born in my in where the area which I work, and his heart's really there, and that's super exciting for me.
I actually went to high school with him.
Yes, Leslie went to high school with him, which is super awkward.
Yeah.
And she went to high school, we discovered, with one of my assistant principals as well. Also super awkward. I have not told them that I know you, though. Um, so that's kind of fun.
I was a quiet, quiet geek. If they remember me, it was only from AP classes. So
Yeah, and they're good guys.
they
So I'm
are.
excited to work with them. And then Wednesday I had state testing all day. It was the Algebra 1 test, and my super smart kids went 5 hours on their test. They can take as long as they want. So I walked in circles for 5 hours. So I was super not motivated to have to walk in circles for 5 hours, not doing anything. Um, and then Friday I went to I did my summer reading presentation to all the incoming fifth graders, which I'm super stoked about. And I did post the summer reading list in the group, and then anyone who's PM'd me should have gotten a PM back on that. Like, I'm 28 PMs behind, I just checked. So I apologize for that. It's
I
hard
have less than you.
It never happens that way.
I know.
So that's really, and then I went to New Orleans and went with 3 of my coworkers, myself, and my current principal, and met up with a lot of other people down there, including future principal type people, and yeah, it was fun.
So there wasn't a lot of Laura time this week.
No, there was no Laura time, which is fine too. I was telling Leslie earlier that, like, I'm pretty much an extrovert for the most part until you put me in a bar, in which case I'm total introvert. Like, I just sit there and kind of watch people and see what's going on. So
I count down the minutes until I can politely make an excuse and leave.
well, New Orleans is just such a fascinating town, and there's such good food in New Orleans, and we're totally off task, and this is a knitting podcast, but anyway, that was my crazy week, and that's the last you'll have to hear about it, besides seeing a really cool book that I brought back, because I did make it back with 2 bags of books, just not the third.
Just not the ones for you.
Seriously. Anyway, it's all good. What are you working on?
I've pretty much only worked on one thing all week, and I do have some spinning, which I'll show you in a little bit, but I didn't work on the Coop Knits hat at all this week. I didn't work on my infinite twist design this week. And I didn't work on the baby dress at all this week. The only thing I've knit on is my Viajante. And that is out of Vulmiza.
When you pronounce it that way.
Well, I watched the Martina Bam video.
And that's how she says it.
And that's how she says it, so I was like, okay, that's how you say it.
Yep, that is how you say it.
So, I'm using Vulmiza lace garn in the Vamp colorway. It's still super washed out. I hear Humberto. You might as well just let him in. He's just going to continue.
He did. He opened the door of his own power. And he'll probably jump up behind me in a second.
I did not weigh the ball before I started, which I should have, but they're all at least 300 grams, which is around 1,750 yards, roughly. But usually she errs on the side of them being heavy, so sometimes you may get a 315 gram or a 310 gram ball. So I am officially halfway through the ball. I've knit 150 grams of it this week, so that's about 850 yards, which I'm pretty proud of. Excuse me. So it's on little needles. It's not spread out. It's not actually this narrow at the bottom. It starts out, I made the neck
huge.
a little bit wider, and I'm following the pattern exactly with the increases and decreases.
How wide did you make it at the top?
I made it 10 inches wide at the top. And that's folded in half, so it's actually flat at this part, so it was 20 inches. If I were to do it again, and I had a friend ask me, because a couple of people have cast on, because I'm an enabler, I would probably do it where it was more like 22 to 23 inches wide, just so it would be a little wider for me. I can see them.
This is why I can't have nice things.
Yeah. Oh, honey, you're talking to the wrong person. But, yeah, so this is the decrease side. So it's very similar to tubularity, except you're actually increasing instead of keeping the stitch count even.
Oh, okay.
So this is the decrease side. There's Humberto's tail.
He hasn't seen me in 3 days.
Yeah.
Can you see he's giving me kisses? He's being a little needy this afternoon. And now that I said that, he's like, peace, I got stuff to do.
This is the increase side, and I actually changed the increases to make one right and then knit the center stitch and then make one left, just because I like the look of that.
That's what they are for tubularity. What are they normally on that?
There's like a backwards loop cast on, and then there's an alternate one.
Okay.
And they're a little looser.
Left and a make one right, but it's like a backward loop cast on.
Yeah. But I like the nice, clean, tight edge, so that's what I'm doing. I switched these to my Xiaogu interchangeables because I was knitting them on signature 4s, but the shaft on that one was 4 inches, and I have big, fat, meaty man hands, and it was just too short. And
Did you buy 4-inch signatures?
I didn't buy them; they were testers.
Oh, okay.
So I switched to my Xiaogu, and they're working great. So these are just 3.5 US 4, 3.5 millimeter. And I'm just knitting them around and 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 around. And I think actually knitting it in a color that I really love is making a difference, because I don't dislike knitting on it. So that's
also,
good.
it's not cobweb weight.
This is true.
Sorry. He's like rubbing his face on the mouse pad, and I'm afraid he's going to hang up. So now he's getting all the lovin's.
It's foiled by Humberto.
All the scritches.
So anyway, I've been knitting on this a whole lot. Michael was out of town for this past weekend on his annual man trip, which he always schedules over Mother's Day. Just want to put that out there. Yeah, so, but I'm going to change the edging, and I want to put this out there for people to discuss. So, and I planned ahead and pulled up pictures. So, let me show you what Viajante looks like. Viajante looks like usually, if you follow the pattern. So this is Martina's adorable self. Oh my goodness, you can't see crap because of this. Hang on. Sorry. I'm so not prepared.
You're fine.
So this is what it looks like normally. And on the mesh edging, you can either do mesh or you can do ruffle. And on the mesh edging, some people have added beads, like this.
Yeah, that's cute.
And I thought, well, what about doing pre-strung beads? Because I've done Shipwreck twice, and it uses pre-strung beads, and I really, really like that over the applied beads or the crocheted on ones.
But that's not netting, right? Was that netting?
No, I'm talking.
Okay.
Slow your roll. I'm getting there. So yeah, but this, if you're doing it this way with the applied beads, then it goes on a stitch and doesn't move. Now, because you're doing it in the round, you could also do it in the little spaces of the net of the lace, but because you have a stabilizing knit row in between each lace row, the bead wouldn't be able to move freely between. Whereas this, it's a picture of one of the shipwrecks that I did. You can see that the bead can move along the strand. So I'm thinking about doing that edging instead of the one that's written, which is the only difference is that I'm not doing a knit stabilizing row in between each yarn over knit two together.
You're doing like a yarn over knit two together.
Right, just continuously. And I can actually even account for the bias, because the way that she does it, on one side it's yarn over slip slip knit, and then on the other side it's knit two together yarn over, so it continues to favor in that sort of asymmetrical direction.
Mm-hmm.
So I can continue to do that, but I guess my question to the people who are watching is,
to the peoples,
yay or nay, should I bother doing that? And if so, what color beads should I get?
I say silver.
Because I don't want it to blend in enough so that you can't see it, because if I'm doing it, I want it to be seen, but I don't want it to be like bright yellow with red, you know, I want it to be something that works.
I say silver.
So, thoughts? And does anybody see any potential problems that I haven't accounted for? Because the things in my head don't always come out the way that I think that they do, so.
Well, you could just got a face full of fur, because someone hasn't been brushed in 3 days, and whatever. You could always put in a lifeline, try the one with the pre-strung, and then if you don't like it, rip it back.
Yeah, I could, but I really hate re-knitting things.
Even if it's like 4 rows.
But 4 rows over, 800 stitches.
Yeah.
I talked to Jasmine this morning about it, and she suggested like a little swatch model, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I don't want to do a swatch. But it might be worth it. I don't know.
You could knit this cat a Viajante.
A Viajante. He would wear it so well.
He would. Just like that. I want you to knit me good things.
So we need a kitty poncho.
Someone love me. Yeah, because what he needs is more things on top of his fur. And now I've...
Alright, so that's all I've been knitting on this week. And that's it. That's all. I'm hoping to have it at least to the lace next week, but I don't know if I'll have as much time this week to knit as I did last week.
Well, I finished something.
Yay!
For the Harry Potter House Cup, they are doing Quidditch, and it's supposed to be inspired by... Oh, just come back over here. Jeez Louise, cat. Hold on 1 second.
He loves you so much.
Seriously. He doesn't. He just loves rubbing my computer with his face. Which is super hot. Anyway. So... Quidditch.
I can hear him. I'm sorry. It's just funny.
And now he's playing with needles, because that's how we roll. Oh, Mommy's desk is so messy. You have no place to sit. Life is terrible here. Because apparently the show has become about cats. So, is that better? You can't see, but his, tail is curled, so it's right on top of the monitor. And now he's sitting there judging me. Alright, so Harry Potter House Cup, which is a group that I'm in on Ravelry, it does Quidditch. And so Quidditch is typically smaller projects that, I wish y'all could see him because he's being so cute. Smaller projects that in this term, I think there's 4 or 5 projects, but if you don't do the first project, you can't do the rest.
So they're progressive.
They're progressive. So I got to meet listen to the amazing Kelly Gallagher, who writes books for teachers. And I have the greatest respect for him because even though he writes all these resources for teachers, multitudes of books, he still teaches.
Oh, wow.
So when he comes to do events, he can only come usually on Saturdays and Sundays. Now, he does teach now he was a teacher in California for a long time. But now he's in a New York private academy type situation, mentoring teachers, but he's still in the classroom, which is really, really awesome. But I was listening to him, and I cast on a wee little preemie hat.
I love this. You showed me a picture of it.
And it's so tiny. Look, I mean, it's...
I know. Every time I knit preemie hats, I'm like, they cannot start this small.
So this is for not only Quidditch, but the SSK.
The charity.
Knit Along, charity knit along. And so this is Russian Rainbow by Alaska Nancy Fireweed Dye Works. She's an Etsy seller, and she's typically sold out. But I happen to have a skein, and I wound it a little bit back. And I was like, I didn't look at the list of countries before I started knitting. I was like, Russia, it's 32 countries. And I knew, Transylvania was one. So I was like, of course Russia is one of the countries. It is totally not. So, stop eating things. You're going to electrocute yourself. So, it's, I said, because India was one of the countries that it reminded me of saris.
Yeah, it does, actually, yeah.
So, I worked it in that way. So, I've got my first project done, and then this way, if I decide to compete on the rest, because I'll have more time after school's out, I can compete on the rest of the projects. So that's the plan. It is the cutest. It's only 30 yards, and it's the cutest little project. So let me give you the details. And now it's got cat fur on it, so it is getting washed. Also, it was in my bag, which went to Bourbon Street. So it's definitely getting washed. So I already said the yarn is Alaska Nancy Fireweed Dye Works in the Russian Rainbow colorway. It was knit on size 1.5 needles. I knit it on 2 circulars because these ones, which are high sharps, because that's what, actually it wasn't those ones, that was an Eddie Turbo. These ones, which are high sharp, 16-inch, so that...
I'm sorry. I just keep seeing this, like, kitty curtain of fur.
Hey, look, Leslie wants to see your face. Look, there she is. Oh,
Yes.
anyway, so, oh, jeez, cat. You just moved the whole laptop upside down. All right, so Alaska Nancy Fireweed Dye Works says 1.5 needles, which is what, 2.25? 2.5.
2.5
millimeters. I cannot keep in earbuds to save my life today. It's like insane. This one should be called When Humberto Comes to Dinner. So it's an awesome pattern. I want to talk about the pattern because the woman who wrote it is actually in our group. It's called Angel Babies by Angela McGarrett. Super easy, and it's a check-off pattern. So it's like cast on so many stitches, and there's 3 sizes, and then you check when you do that.
Mm-hmm.
Knit so many rows in ribbing. Check. You know, you can check them as you go. Knit so many rows in stockinette, and you can check them as you go. So for someone who was trying to listen to a lecture, which was really interesting, and then I got to meet Neil Schusterman, the guy who wrote the N1 series.
I don't know that one.
He was in an author panel that I listened to, which was really interesting because he can't work at like a desk. He thinks that's terrible. So he goes on cruises multiple times a year to people watch and write, because that's how he gets his inspiration. So this got finished during his speech. I think I actually finished it the second time we were going to listen to Kelly Gallagher. So it was a Kelly Gallagher day of awesome. So that's my finished object that now took like 30 minutes to describe because I had help.
It's hilarious, though.
Do you want me to do spinning too?
Yes, go ahead.
She's just like, whatever, mommy. I made you this space and you're being so mean. And
you know what? I read somewhere on the internet, and it's completely true. What you need to do is just get, like, you know the boxes that paper come in with the little top that comes off? Bring one of those tops home and put it on your desk, and I guarantee that's where he'll be every time. Cats love boxes. Give him a box to sit in, and that's where he'll sit.
He's licking at my fingers again. He's so cute, though. How can you be mad? All right. Yes, the answer to that would be very easily. I had a tag sitting here.
It's like a fur eclipse every time he moves his little tail.
It's a total eclipse of Humberto. What are you doing? Stop judging me. All right. So, this is some lovely Three Waters Farms BFL top in the Positive Outlook colorway, which I started to spin last week because I got this awesome bobbin
From Acreworks.
Acreworks. This is their new prototype for their shots bobbin, and I love it because stop eating my headphones. I love that side angle. I think that's super cool. And you can kind of see the layers of what you've spun, and if you've been dividing your bobbin equally.
That's a good point. I just like that he keeps beauty in the process, and it's not just function.
This is a gorgeous bobbin.
Yeah.
Leslie and I were talking, and we're like, we want one of every color in the rainbow.
Yeah.
So.
And the shocked bobbins are not out for general purchase yet. Laura and I just happened to be a couple of the testers.
Yeah.
So.
But they will be soon. So I spun a fairly thick single. It's right around that on purpose because I'm trying to get better at spinning thick. And I'm going to two-ply it. So that is that we have a lot of conversation. We have a lot of beginning spinners. And they keep asking like what fiber is the best fiber to start on. You cannot go wrong with BFL. It is wonderful. So it's a wonderful beginner fiber for sure. Those are not your spindles. Please leave them alone. That's it for me. before I go insane, because even though I keep clearing off spaces, it's not good enough.
Okay, well, I have like probably 10 minutes worth of talk and spinning, so you can give him
Good.
some snuggles and stuff. Okay, so I did finish my wound up Fiber Arts bats, and I got 195 yards of a 4-ply. So this is my first time I did
Ooh, that's pretty.
4 individual singles and then plied them together. And this is the wound up Fiber Arts, wound up Fiber Arts in the open hearted colorway. Like I said, I got 195 yards, and it's actually pretty well balanced. It does definitely still need a bath,
I love the sparkle in that.
but it's got a nice, the different colors where they met, even though I spun them from the same end,
Uh-huh.
I don't spin very evenly between bobbins, so
I think it looks great.
so there's lots of different colors in all the bobbins. So yeah, it needs a soak, but it is pretty decently balanced. It does have about a half a twist.
That's pretty.
And yeah, I liked it. I don't know that I would do 4-ply regularly, but I am happy with how perfectly round the plies are. That makes me very happy.
Do you have any future plans for that?
I don't. Nope. It might be a giveaway scheme for SSK for the lottery. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I try not to make plans for my spinning, because then I usually don't spin it the way that it needs to be spun. So, anyway, happy
It's really
colors.
pretty.
So the rest of my spinning is related to fleece. So if fleece and the discussion of fleece bores you, you probably can just fast forward through a little bit. So I've never processed a fleece before, ever. Laura's mom walked us through a very high level overview of how to do it a while back, and then we dyed some raw locks, and they dried on the trampoline.
That's right.
I don't think we ever saw them again.
We did. We used them in the Lexi Booger class.
Okay, all right.
We had put them into. We made them into because one of the things that we needed for the Lexi Booger class
It was a whole bunch of fiber.
was 2 ounces of locks.
Mm-hmm.
So we took them there and processed them, and I have some yarn spun out of them somewhere.
So Laura and I got 3 fleeces when we were at Maryland Sheep and Wool,
Oh,
and
pretty.
I only have 2 kinds here with me. One is the Romney, which is multicolored. It's got sort of the tan and then the grays, and then it's got some lighter, like almost
So
white
you
sections.
washed that.
This is washed, but nothing else has been done with it. So there's
Yeah.
different shades of gray and everything in it. So, and then there's Corriedale, which is this rich chocolatey brown, and it's really super springy, which makes me happy.
I like them to it.
And so I watched several videos on YouTube on processing fleece, because I've never done it before. And I did 1 ounce of each, the Corriedale and the Romney, and I just wanted to start with 1 ounce, because I wanted to spin a sample, and I wanted to decide if I wanted to card them or comb them. And I meant to bring my big scary combs, and they're upstairs. But anyway, so let me show you what they look like after I've combed them. When you're processing fleece, you need a bunch of these mesh bags. I got them at Target for like $1 a piece.
I have those same bags. They're very helpful.
So I've only combed a little bit, 3 little clumps. And this is what they look like after I've combed them.
So let's talk about structure of carding versus structure of combing. When you card something, you kind of get a jumbled mesh of a jumbled bit of fibers, where the fiber direction is kind of going in all different directions. When you comb using the big scary combs,
Which we'll bring next episode, and I'll show you.
You can create basically top where
Parallel
everything's
lines.
going in the same direction.
Right. So, having never done this before, I watched the video of the guy who makes the combs that I have, which are the Patrick Green something combs. I'll bring them next week and show you. So I watched how he did it, and then I tried to imitate. It is a whole different set of muscles. But, so this is one of the first ones, and you can see it's pretty sheer and light and airy. So they're all going in the same direction, but there's very little like like clumps of noils or anything. Like there's one right there that I didn't quite get out. And so here's another one, and they're different shades. You can see the different, well, maybe you can't, but I can see the different shades. And as I continue to go on, I don't have a diz, so when you're pulling off of the combs that I have a little clamp thing that keeps them to the table. And I didn't have a diz, which is essentially like
it's a button, basically.
It's a circle with a hole in it.
Yeah.
So
you can use a button with a large hole.
Right, but I didn't have any big enough, like with the holes big enough. So I went through Michael's tool drawers and got a big washer.
Yeah.
And so it was just a big metal circle with a hole in it. And so I used that to pull the sliver through. And then it got more narrow, which was helpful. But the thing of it is this takes so much time. Oh my God.
It does take a long time.
Each one of these is about 2 grams. And there's 27 grams in an ounce?
There is.
And so each one of these took about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Now maybe that'll get faster as I get better.
So how long was the original staple length of... Is that the Romney?
This is the Romney. Yeah.
Okay, how long's the original staple length of the Romney?
Let me pull one of the washed but not processed.
Because isn't it with combs you want longer than like 3 inches?
I couldn't find a good, like, definitive source that would tell me that. So here, this is a, pull this out. Staple length, I would say it's probably 3.5 inches maybe.
Okay.
The Cordell, I think it's going to be too small to comb.
I think the Cordell and the Formo you're going to have to card.
Because, here, let me compare this for you. I'm so sorry for all the spinners that do not, or the knitters that do not care about spinning.
I think it's interesting to see how the process goes.
So this is a Cordell staple, and this is a Romney staple. Well, you can't even see. This is the bottom of the Romney staple. Oh, here we go. You can show it, see it on my shirt. So this is the end of the Cordell, and this is the end of the Romney. So they're just different lengths of the fiber that's on the sheep, and that's what's considered a staple length, the length of the cut fleece. So I do have a drum carder that I've had for several years and never used because I bought it right before we moved, and it's still in the box when we moved. And I'm going to pull it out and see what I can do. But I'm working with Michael to actually get hot water set up outside so that I don't have to continue to carry really heavy buckets of hot water outside to do well.
Why are you doing it outside?
Because I have more space, and if I spill water, it's no big deal.
Okay.
And I'm super clumsy, so.
So I just do mine in my sink.
Yeah, well, I want to do like batches, like 1 ounce batches. I have like 4 clear Tupperware containers, so I want to do like a batch in each one to try to.
I do like ½ an ounce in each bag.
Really? Even in these huge bags?
Yeah. Like I do ½ an ounce to an ounce in each of those bags.
Well, that's what I was doing, was
yeah,
an ounce in each bag.
But I put it in my sink.
I mean, I could do that, but I don't have a sink. Like my bathroom sinks aren't big enough.
You have a down cellar sink.
Do what?
You have your kitchen sink.
I do, but my kitchen sink would have to always be clean for me to.
No, I get a dish pan. You know those dish pans, the plastic dish pans that they sell?
No.
No. Well, I'm not getting up to get it because I'm lazy.
It's okay.
They sell like plastic dish pans that are like this by this.
A big plastic bucket, essentially.
Yeah, like a shallow plastic bucket, and it's like the size of the bottom of your sink, and you can put it in the bottom of your sink, and you have that instant hot water upstairs.
But then I would have to do one at a time when I'd rather do a batch.
You have to do one at a time.
Don't try to tell me how to process my fleece.
No, I'm thinking it through. So are you doing like 7 buckets outside?
No, I'll do like 4 at a time. So I'll do 4 washes, let them sit for 30 minutes in the hot soapy water, or 25 minutes, and then I'll let the water out, and then I'll do a rinse to determine how many more washes I need, and then I'll do another wash.
Oh, I'm doing like, okay, we're doing it differently. That's okay.
But
It's
anyway,
okay, different.
like I said, I mean, this is the first time I've ever processed fleece, so.
Yeah, your way is probably, I'm just not, I don't have a Michael to hook up hot water from the outside either, but I have a double, you just have a single basin sink.
Right. We opted, when we replaced our sink a couple of years ago, we opted to get a big, huge single basin versus the two smaller doubles. So
I have a double, so I can do two at
yeah,
once.
well, that makes sense for you. Yeah. Anyway, all right. So that's enough spinning talk. What's next? We're not doing a book review this week.
We are not, because I have not had time to look at a book.
Yeah, and it's okay.
We do have a question from Knitting Guru 1 as to what is she or he, I can't even remember right now.
I think it's a she.
Asked, what is the difference between a base and a colorway? I hear you guys talk about yarn you buy having a certain base and then a colorway. So this is a pretty easy one to answer.
Mm-hmm.
A base is the fiber content, how it's spun,
how
so
it's created.
It's the actual yarn prior to being dyed.
So, like all merino yarn isn't the same. So, a prime example is like the Louette basic merino 2-ply is very, like, it's very visually distinct. I can spot it when I see it, even if indies use that particular base, just because it's so visually distinct. And I don't remember what the base is called, but the base is basically how the different fibers are combined. And it may be that Ashford or Louette or whoever names their merino nylon base their standard sock. And then when indies get that yarn to dye, they can rename it to whatever they want. So, like, I think Gail's Art has a BFL nylon blend which is called Wonder Sock, and that's just what she calls that particular blend.
So on this, this is Play It Life Fiber Arts, and you can kind of see the base on that. Both these are merino nylon, and it's got a pretty round ply structure. It looks like it is, let me take it apart and I'll tell you. It is a 4-ply, and then I have some Fancy Pants Fiber, which is also superwash merino nylon, but you can see this is a 2-ply. You can see how it's kind of got like the almost individual twist bumps, whereas this one, because it was a 4,
is more rounded
and more smooth looking in appearance. And I feel like you don't get the shadows. That makes sense. 2-plies tend to have shadows because they're basically like this, whereas 4-plies seem to, because they're more rounded, you can't see the shadows.
And the colorway is just the dyer's particular name for what color the yarn is.
Yeah.
So, like, this is Woolmeise lace garn, and it's lace garn is the base, and it's called lace garn because that's what she called it. I think it's a 4-ply. If you untwist the yarn, I think you can see there might be an 8-ply actually, or 6-ply. I can't tell. Actually, I think it's a 6-ply. And the colorway, which is what Claudia calls this particular tonal semi-solid red, is Vamp. So
A lot of indie dyers use, they go through a person who basically wholesales bases to them, and they can pick a base off that list, or if they are more established, typically, they can actually contact mills such as Kramer or Made in America Yarns and ask them, or multitudes of others, both in the United States and overseas, and ask them to create a base exclusively for them. So a lot of people, like Claudia's base is exclusively created just for her.
Right. I think that Blue Moon is also milled exclusively for their socks, or their Socks That Rock base is exclusive to Blue Moon.
Yeah.
There's a capital financial investment in that because, you know, the mill has to do all these samples, and they have to try all these different things to get you the thickness, the bounciness, the weight, the twist, all these different things that you want require tweaking on their end. So it's not something usually the indies can afford to do.
And there's definitely a minimum purchase as well.
Yeah.
Like 100 pounds or something, just depending on whatever mill you go through. It would be like getting a t-shirt made with a logo. You would, my cat hit my thing. There's like that initial setup fee, and then there's a certain number that you have to buy. So I hope that made sense, and I hope that was helpful in some way to someone. What you reading, Leslie?
Yeah, so we're going to start adding this as a regular segment. People seem to like to know what we're reading. I just finished yesterday the Mistborn trilogy, which is I would say, fantasy science fiction sort of. And that's by Brandon Sanderson, who I got turned on to by Laura, because he wrote Steelheart.
Yep.
And I'm listening to The Way of Kings, which is another Brandon Sanderson, on Audible. It's a 45-hour-long book.
Wow.
Yeah, so it'll keep me busy for a while, which is good. And it's part of a trilogy. Brandon Sanderson is really good with world building. Like, he's very detailed, and there are all these different pieces that come together. And anyway, I like him. You have to like science fiction and fantasy, though. And so I finished that book, and the next book I started was the final book in the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy. And it's Dreams of Gods and Monsters, and it's by Lanai Taylor, I think.
Yep.
And
I've heard good things about that series.
I've read the first two books twice, and I've been putting off, I pre-ordered the book, and it came out in April, and I've been putting off reading it because I know that once it's over I'll be sad.
Yeah.
Because it's just such a great book. But I finally started it last night, so after I picked Michael up from the airport at midnight. So that's what I'm reading. What are you reading?
Well, I was going to start reading the lady who wrote the book Whisper, which is a wonderful book, a very inspirational book about teaching reading and the love of reading. Came out with a new book, and I got her to autograph a copy for me, and it got left. So instead of reading that, my other book that I was going to read, I got an ARC of how they choked. So a while back we had talked about how they croaked, and it's stories of the ends of awfully famous people. This one is Failure, Flops, and Flaws of the Awfully Famous. And it's got such wonderful, I think it's hilarious. Like, I got to meet her last year, and she does a wonderful job of keeping kids interested. It's a nonfiction book. It's basically a collective biography, but it's got, like, Vincent van Gogh, voted least likely to succeed. Like, she's got a good sense of humor. She lists Joe Jackson's in here, Amelia Earhart. There's actually some people that I don't really know that much about. So, like, Isabella of Castile, and he goes, OMG. Montezuma II, oops, there goes the Aztecs. Ferdinand Magellan, dead in the water. Ian Boylan, till beheading do us part. And that's really about, like, how she kept, like, miscarrying children in an attempt to please Henry VIII. And that did not work out so well for her. Benedict Arnold, Stinker, Traitor, Soldier, Spy. So I'm excited. Like, my kids, this is probably the first book is one of their favorite books. How They Croaked is really, like, it is probably one of the hottest. It is the hottest nonfiction besides, like, sports teams nonfiction that I have. So I'm really, really excited to. And actually, this is coming out May 6th. So it should be out now. Yeah. They're great books, and she was super sweet when I met her last year. So I'm excited to start reading this. If I can't get my books back from, like, I like the book Whisper, I think it's Donalyn Miller, so much that if I can't get that book back, I'm going to order another copy. She's just wonderful. Like, She's one of those people, like, when you walk up to her at a book signing, she knows your name because she's smart enough to look at your name badge and call you by name. So I also got to meet Roland Smith, and his books were in that bag, and he actually told me, because I was the first person to his booth, because I was so excited to read his stuff. Kobe would probably like his stuff. It's like action adventure type stuff. I was trying to explain to my coworker what his books were about, and he looked at me and he goes, "You should just stand in this booth all day because you really know my books." So that tickled me, and he was just so sweet. So those were the two big people that I was super excited to read their books. I did post a picture on Instagram of all the books that I got the first day. Unfortunately, most of those did not return with me. I don't know how I did that. It really irritates me.
I think
when,
it should be a
something
drinking game this episode every time you mention leaving those books in New Orleans.
It makes me so mad.
I watched one of Amy Beth's most recent one, and apparently a viewer recommended watching her episodes of drinking games, so every time she touched her hair or said something fancy, the word fancy, that you should take a shot.
I think you should have a spoonful of Ben and Jerry's every time that I talk about my stream, because that's basically what I'm going to do in around an hour.
I have some scotch in my freezer. It is awesome. It's Ben and Jerry's. It's a Anchorman reference, yeah.
I don't like, what is that?
It's butterscotch.
Yeah, I don't like butterscotch. I actually don't have anything in my freezer, but I'm not going out again.
You have a Sonic right across the street.
Yeah, I'm not going outside again. But anyway, that's what I'm going to read and what I cannot read. So.
Tales of woe and despair.
I leave every time we go to New Orleans. I leave something there. Remember, I left my awesome flip flops last time underneath the bed. It's that.
I don't remember that they were awesome, but. Okay, so favorite things. When we were at Maryland Sheep and Wool, we got to talk to one of our friends, Gail, of Gail's Art, who is just one of the nicest people there are. And she's actually our sponsor for this month and next on the blog. Her ad will be up on our site on the 14th. She's launching a new base, which goes live that day.
Oh.
And it is MYS622. And it is a new luxury yarn. And it's made out of merino, 60% merino, 20% yak, and 20% silk, which is a blend.
Merino. That'll be nice and soft.
I haven't seen anybody else carry it. And actually, if you go on her site, which we'll link in the show notes, you can get a free kit to make the captive shawl or scarf, which has beads in the pattern, if you buy one skein of the yarn, of the brand new merino yak silk. These are a couple of the colors.
Pretty.
Yeah, Sue's really liked these together, which I agree. I think that they complement each other really nicely.
I didn't get a sample because Leslie has mine in her hands.
It's lovely. It's very soft. So yeah, that's Gail's Art, and you can go to gailsart.com or find her on Etsy. And starting on the 14th is when she'll put it up. So
that's really neat.
I like both of these colors. I think I like the blue the best, though.
They're pretty. I think Jessica got a sample too, so that's fun. When I went to her booth to chit chat with her, she told me that you had already gotten my sample.
Yeah, she gave me two, so I didn't know one of them was yours. I just knew she gave me two.
You have Gail Zucker classes in Portland, 628.
Yes.
So would you like to elaborate?
One of our teachers at SSK 2013 was Gail Zucker, and she is a photographer who she photographed the Mason-Dixon books as well as several other knitting books. She just did a photo shoot with Laura Nelkin. She did a photo shoot with a bunch of people at TNNA, I believe. Yeah, I think you're right.
And she has her own book that she's working on for Cooperative Press of the Rhinebeck.
Oh, I didn't realize that was going to be a book. That's cool.
Yeah.
So she's teaching classes at a shop in Portland called A Gathering of Stitches, Portland, Maine. And it's June 28th and 29th, and we'll link it in the show notes. And the link in the show notes, if you're anywhere near the area, you should click on the link in our show notes, and it'll take you to a giveaway. She's giving away either free classes or a book or patterns or something else.
Oh, cool. Her classes, Leslie and I both took her class at our local yarn shop. That's how we got to meet Gail for the first time. And it was just amazing. It was a really, really good class of
She's good at not making things super technical, but showing you sort of what you're capable of and what even your little iPhone camera can do, you know?
Yes. And if you do have technical questions, she's willing to answer those as well.
Once you get into
the
like
photo editing software she recommended.
Yeah, Pixlr, yeah. I use that all the time. But once you start talking about like shutter speed, like it just that's all I hear in my head. But she knows what it is.
Yeah, and if you really are interested in photography, there's a podcast called Down Cellar Studio, who's hosted by Jen. It's an audio podcast, and she also, in addition to knitting, discusses photography. So that's a great podcast. Yeah. And she's from the Boston area, and she's super sweet. We met her around back a couple of years ago. She's a great podcast. But Gail's amazing, and I highly recommend you taking a class with her.
Yeah, and if you're anywhere near the shop, it just opened last year, I think, in March or May.
Oh, cool.
It's called A Gathering of Stitches. It's in Portland, Maine. So if you're anywhere near that area, check it out. And I can't recommend her highly enough. You'll get your money's worth and more out of a class with her. She's doing like masterpieces with your mobile phone or something. And then there's 2 other brand new classes she's never taught before. So
very neat.
Yeah.
Two Guys Yarn Company still has a coupon code going on. It is TheKnitGirlls with 3 L's 20. So we highly encourage y'all to use that.
Yep.
And then we have Stash Dash coming up. Stash Dash is going to be taking place in the group. It starts the Friday before Memorial Day, which is
next Friday, I think.
No, it's not next
Memorial
Friday.
Day is the 26th.
Yeah, it's the 23rd.
So it is next Friday.
Yeah, there's this coming Friday, and then there's the following Friday. Yeah. So it's the 23rd. I can't believe school will be out the 23rd.
Add 30 days to that, and that's when my child's school is out.
Well, but I have another couple days the following week after that because of snow. But so Stash Dash will begin that Friday. We are trying to use up 5,000 meters 5,000 meters out of your stash, or and people ask what stash is. Once it enters your house, it is stash.
Once you have it in your possession, it is your stash.
Yep. I bet you there's a package at my parents' house. I am doing the Loopy U Camp Loopy, which I think ordering was this week, but you can join Camp Loopy at any time. You just won't get some of the things. Like, they do a free scan at the end if you do all 3. Yeah. But you can join at any point in time. So, Camp Loopy is awesome, and I'm going to be using my first project from that for Stash Dash. So I'm excited about that.
I'm definitely going to make sure that this counts for Stash Dash.
Oh, yeah.
On the remote possibility that I get everything done, I'll just save the bind off or something. Stash Dash is super duper cheater friendly. We are all about finding any reason to count the yardage. I'm going to try to combine the Knit More Girls Spin Along, Knit Along to count, and it would count 3 times because I would spin it.
No, it would count twice.
No, I was thinking it would count 3 times because I would be able to spin it, I would knit it, and then it would go in their spackle thing and in Stash Dash, so it doesn't really count 3 times. The yardage only counts twice.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's super duper cheater friendly. You can weave, crochet, knit, spin, any way that you can use the yardage. You can have a blanket where 25 or 24 of the 25 squares are knit, and you knit that 25th one, and it's done. Count all the squares. Totally fine.
Yep. Very cool.
And it's very loose. Like, if you say you're going to do it and then you don't, we're not going to come after you.
We're not going to come to your house and yell at you. It's all good.
So, that's it for me. We've been talking for almost an hour, so.
No, you're fine. Alright, so that is it for this week. This is episode 204. Duh.
That's okay.
You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on Facebook sometimes. Not very often, unfortunately. But we do have a pretty active group over there that kind of self-monitors. You can definitely find us on Ravelry, because that's where we like to hang. Leslie is a tweeter.
I'm trying to be a tweeter.
She's a tweeter in training.
Mm-hmm. Tweeter in training. There you go. Yeah.
As a twit.
We're both most active on Instagram. You're such a jerk.
I totally just thought of that. That made me feel better about my crappy leaving of books.
I'm so glad. Your face is bright red, by the way.
That's okay. So that's it. You'll find us those places. You can also find us at TheKnitGirls with 3ls.com.
Yep.
Show notes are up whenever
you remind us, or we remember ourselves. Don't feel bad about reminding us.
Putting them up at work this week, so because I am walking in circles for 4 days.
I'll put them up this week.
Straight. That's my walking in circles. Yeah.
Okay, Laura's obviously tired and
yes.
ready for a nap.
Yeah, so we'll talk to y'all later.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.